Welcome back. We're discussing India-US ties and how India will also navigate critical partnerships such as Russia, such as those with BRICS nations in light of threats coming in from Donald Trump. And how will the India-China relationship also move from here? We still have with us former Indian ambassador to the US, Navtej Sarna, former Indian ambassador to China, Ashok Kantha. Ambassador Sarna, if I can come to you, I'm reading out what the Prime Minister has said. We also reviewed the progress in our bilateral agenda, reaffirmed our commitment to further deepen the India-Russia special and privileged strategic partnership. This was there in the statement issued by the Indian government. This is there in the Prime Minister's tweet about his conversation with Putin as well. Does this somehow indicate that we've probably reached a point where you cannot recover things with the United States?
No, I don't think so. I don't think you should link the two so directly. We cannot, it's not a sort of either-or situation. And we would be making a mistake to make everything an either-or situation. Yes, we have to give due importance to our strategic relationship with Russia. And I think that is what this call is about, and making sure that there's a fresh injection of attention to that relationship. But it doesn't mean that your entire relationship with the US is gone. It's in doldrums at the moment, largely due to President Trump's attitude. But there's a lot of ballast in that relationship, which we would do well to keep going as a matter of process. It's been built up over 20-odd years. There is defense, there is technology, there is science. That we are part of the MSP, the minerals, the Strategic Minerals Partnership. We are part of the Artemis space. We are still part of the Quad. Let's not forget. We are also part of most of IPEF. So we don't know how all that is going to go. But certainly the United States doesn't begin or end with Mr. Trump and trade tariffs. So I wouldn't sort of junk the whole relationship and say, okay, we switched off for the US and now we are on to Russia. No, the entire thing of strategic autonomy is that we have to have more than one ball in the air and make sure that we maximize from each partner what we need.
Right. Ambassador Kantha, we're also seeing how President Lula dialed Prime Minister Modi last evening. How do you think the relationship and the coordination between India and Brazil would be important at this point?
In a way, both India and Brazil are being subjected to special treatment by President Trump. As you know, both have been subjected to 50% tariff for considerations which are completely, unacceptable, extraneous. And President Lula also, in fact, has made some very strong comments publicly about the nature of action taken by President Trump and conveying that he is not going to succumb under pressure. So exchanging notes with a key partner country like Brazil, which is very important for us, both bilaterally as well as a partner in BRICS. I'm sure it was something found very useful by two leaders, Prime Minister and President Lula. In a way, it's also signaling on our behalf that President Trump may complain about India's membership of BRICS, but we are not going to give up those engagements. We will pursue strategic autonomy while relations with the USA are extremely important. And I fully agree with what Navtej said, that we should not sort of downgrade or jettison this relationship because of problems we are facing at this point of time on trade and tariff issues. There's a whole lot going in our relations with the USA. There's a muscle memory in the relationship, which is very positive, forward-looking, yet that should not come in the way of our engagement with other partners, whether it be Russia or Brazil or China.
Right. You know, my final questions to both you and Ambassador Sarna. Ambassador Sarna, let me begin with you. You know, it's very difficult to put ourselves in the shoes of the negotiators. But, you know, are there certain areas where we can now give concessions to clinch a deal?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what the exact sectoral situation is. From what one reads, there are certain critical areas which are very sensitive for India. There's dairy, there's agriculture, there's fisheries. And you've seen the Prime Minister's statement, which appeared this morning in the newspapers, that we are not going to give up the interests of our farmers or our fishermen and or our animal husbandry people. So clearly, those are areas on which giving concessions is going to be very difficult. And those are the areas on which President Trump reportedly wants us to open up. I mean, there may be other areas on which there can be more give and take. But, you know, there is a round of negotiations which is still due on the August the 25th. Whether that will happen or not after President Trump's statement last night remains to be seen. But I would think that, you know, if there is a Putin-Trump meeting, I still think that things might change.
All right, a Putin-Trump meeting, that would change things. We're also putting out the tweet that the Prime Minister put out a short while back. And the Prime Minister saying, I had a fruitful conversation with President Putin, my friend President Putin, a short while back. I thanked him for sharing the latest developments on Ukraine. We also reviewed the progress in our bilateral agenda and reaffirmed our commitment to further deepen the India-Russia special and privileged strategic partnership. I look forward to hosting President Putin in India later this year. This relationship, very critical for India. Remember, we have been able to insulate ourselves from global oil price volatility because we bought oil at discounted rates from Russia. Also important to point out that these oil imports were not sanctioned by the previous US administration. In fact, there were people in the administration who had even encouraged us to go ahead and buy oil so that there is stability in the global markets. One final question to Ambassador Kantha at this point. Ambassador Kantha, what should India do in order to have this deal right now?
One is not fully familiar with the state of negotiations. You know, in any negotiations, there are some issues on which you can show flexibility. There are other issues where, you know, your core interests are involved. When it comes to interest of our farmers or, you know, dairy industry, these are issues, you know, affecting very large segments of Indian population. And the government of India will find it difficult to show great degree of flexibility on those issues. But if there are the issues where we can show flexibility, I'm sure, you know, that will be done. Likewise, when it comes to procurement of oil from Russia, I mentioned earlier that this is something which is determined by market factors. So perhaps today the need for sourcing oil from Russia is a little less compared to situation we had earlier. So we can possibly show some flexibility on that issue.
All right, that's interesting. We should show some flexibility in buying purchases from the US or just diversifying our oil supply overall. That's all we have time for here on Global Lens. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sarna and Ambassador Kant, for joining us. Goodbye.